In January 1881, the government launched administrative reforms and established the Tiongnikinyuaman, Office for Extraordinary State Affairs, which was modeled on Chinese administrative structures. 15. Under this overarching organization, 12 SAO agencies were created. 15. In 1881, a technical mission was sent to Japan to survey its modernized facilities. 16. Officials traveled all over Japan inspecting administrative, military, educational, and industrial facilities. 16. In October, another small group went to Tianjin to study modern weapons manufacturing, and Chinese technicians were invited to manufacture weapons in Seoul. Additionally, as part of their plan to modernize the country, the Koreans had invited the Japanese military attaché Lieutenant Hiromoto Rees to serve as an advisor in creating a modern army. 17. A new military formation called the Piljigun, Special Skills Force, was established, in which 8,200 young men, 18, of the aristocracy were to be given Japanese military training. 19. The following year, in January 1882, the government also reorganized the existing 5-army garrison structure into the Marine, Palace Guards Garrison, and Pechangjin, Capital Guards Garrison. 15. Japanese insecurities over Korea. During the 1880s, discussions in Japan about national security focused on the issue of Korean reform. The political discourse over the two were interlinked, as the German military advisor Major Jacob Meckel stated, Korea was a dagger pointed at the heart of Japan. 20. What made Korea of strategic concern was not merely its proximity to Japan but its inability to defend itself against outsiders. If Korea were truly independent, it posed no strategic problem to Japan's national security. But if the country remained undeveloped, it would remain weak and consequently would be inviting prey for foreign domination. 21. The political consensus in Japan was that Korean independence lay, as it had been for Meiji Japan, through the importation of civilization from the West. 20. Korea required a program of self-strengthening like the post-restoration reforms that were enacted in Japan. 21. The Japanese interest in the reform of Korea was not purely altruistic. Not only would these reforms enable Korea to resist foreign intrusion, which was in Japan's direct interest, but through being a conduit of change they would also have opportunity to play a larger role on the peninsula. 20. To Meiji leaders, the issue was not whether Korea should be reformed but how these reforms might be implemented. There was a choice of adopting a passive role which required the cultivation of reformist elements within Korean society and rendering them assistance whenever possible, or adopting a more aggressive policy, actively interfering in Korean politics to assure that reform took place. 22. Many Japanese advocates of Korean reform swung between these two positions. Japan in the early 1880s was weak, as a result of internal peasant uprisings and samurai rebellions during the previous decade. The country was also struggling financially, with inflation as a result of these internal factors. Subsequently, the Meiji government adopted a passive policy, encouraging the Korean court to follow the Japanese model but offering little concrete assistance except for the dispatch of the small military mission headed by Lieutenant Hiromoto Rees to train the Piljigun. 22. What worried the Japanese was the Chinese, who had loosened their hold over Korea in 1876 when the Japanese succeeded in establishing a legal basis for Korean independence by ending its tributary status. 23. Chinese actions appeared to be thwarting the forces of reform in Korea and reasserting their influence over the country. 23. 1882 crisis. Woodblock print depicting the flight of the Japanese legation in 1882. In 1882, the Korean peninsula experienced a severe drought which led to food shortages causing much hardship and discord among the population. Korea was on the verge of bankruptcy, even falling months behind on military pay, causing deep resentment among soldiers. There was also resentment towards the Piljagun on the part of the soldiers of the regular Korean army, as the formation was better equipped and treated. 17. Additionally, more than 1,000 soldiers had been discharged in the process of overhauling army. Most of them were either old or disabled, and the rest had not been given the pay in rice for 13 months. 19. In June of that year, King Gahong, being informed of the situation, ordered that a month's allowance of rice be given to the soldiers. 19. He directed Min Jae-ho, the overseer of government finances and Queen Min's nephew, 24, to handle the matter. Min in turn handed the matter over to his steward, who salty good rice he had been given and used the money to buy millet, which he mixed with sand and bran. 19. As a result, the rice became rotten and inedible. The distribution of the alleged rice infuriated the soldiers. On the 23rd of July, a military mutiny and riot broke out in Seoul. Enraged soldiers headed for the residence of Min Jae-ho, who they had suspected of having swindled them out of their rice. 19. Min, on hearing word of the revolt, ordered the police to arrest some of the ringleaders and announced that they would be executed the next morning. He had assumed that this would serve as a warning to the other agitators. However, after learning what had transpired, the rioters broke into Min's house to take vengeance. As he was not at his residence, the rioters vented their frustrations by destroying his furniture and other possessions. 19. The rioters then moved on to an armory from which they stole weapons and ammunition, and then headed for the prison. After overpowering the guards, they released not only the men who had been arrested that day by Min Jae-ho but also many political prisoners as well. 19. Min then summoned the army to quell the rebellion, but it had become too late to suppress the mutiny. The original body of mutineers had been swelled by the poor and disaffected citizenry of the city. As a result, the revolt had assumed major proportions. 19. The rioters now turned their attention to the Japanese. One group headed to Lieutenant Hiramoto's quarters.
Oh no. No, my computer have crashed. Got to page 4. So, but I need a new computer. So it's 4 p.m. Let's get something to drink. No, I have this debt problem. I'm paying like $800 or $900 to my debts, to my credit card debts. So every month I pay more what I could buy. I could get a new computer like $700-800. But every month I have to pay more than this to my debts, and I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop to pay my credit card debts. The payment have to lower a little bit every month. I've not spent any money on my credit cards this month. So I'm getting my YouTube money is 11. Getting my YouTube money in 2 weeks, but this is not the English vlog video. I'm trying to read about Japan. Got some Danish video there. I had to log in. Now the sun is shining. Now we have the heating. The heating is back. It's 30 degrees. Yes. Yes, I need a break.